The Eagles are back home on Sunday night to take on the Lions in what will be their biggest matchup of the season. A lot of the conversation has been about A.J. Brown this week, and he went out in a presser and explained his comments earlier this week, so we'll highlight that. But more importantly, we will talk about this battle of the heavyweights, where the Eagles are not only looking to rise up in the standings, but ultimately make a statement to the rest of the NFL that they can do this again. And they just learned some valuable info ahead of this matchup. So we'll talk about all of it. But welcome into A to Z Philly. I am RB. And boy, oh boy, this is the one. This is the one that has been looked at from back in July, August, when the schedule drops. It's like, okay, what are the Eagles going to look like in Week 11 against the Detroit Lions? And on the flip side, here's what Aiden Hutchinson said about this matchup. Quote, "We really have had this circled on the calendar for a long time. We see this as a must-win." Listen, man, the Lions have circled this on their calendar dating back to last year. Because if you remember, it was all pointing towards a Lions-Eagles NFC championship. Like, that was supposed to be the big-time game, and the Lions just got ran off the road by the Commanders, who were hot at the time. Shout out to them. But, of course, the Eagles had to come in and drop 55 on their heads. Nonetheless, everybody has been waiting for this matchup, and I'll be honest, whether it has been on this show from the beginning of the year or to my buddies or whatever it is, I have said the Lions are the best team outside of the Eagles. Like, if the Eagles can win and dominate this matchup, I feel so good moving forward because they're just the juggernaut as well. And they might not be the best team record-wise, but they have a lot of weapons. So we're going to talk about this matchup, but listen, man, whether it's in fantasy, having a bunch of guys on the lines, whatever it is, I've watched this team in depth, and they're really good. So if the Eagles win this game, I think that teams should ultimately fear the Eagles to repeat as Super Bowl champs. Like, that's how far I'm willing to go. And here are the injury report updates for the Eagles. Looking clean, looking great. Everybody was a full participant. We talked about Jacorian Bennett, who should be back on the field. Lane Johnson's going to play through whatever he had last week. Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, etc. And it looks like we're trending towards Cam Jurgens playing as well as of the time of recording this. So that would mean every guy on the roster is healthy to go. Now, on the flip side, the Detroit Lions have an extensive injury report. Maybe a couple of these guys are just listed, in terms of rest and stuff like that. But the couple guys we need to look out for are Terrion Arnold, who is their starting corner, Kirby Joseph, starting safety, and Sam Laporta, their starting tight end. These guys are very integral pieces to what the Lions like to do. And if you remember going back last year, they had all these injuries even come playoff time. Maybe that's because of how Dan Campbell manages that team, right? Like, they're going 100 million miles an hour from day one of training camp, whereas the Eagles like to rest guys and, ease them in, not play them in preseason. So maybe it's a difference in philosophy. By the way, speaking of Dan Campbell, I respect him a lot. That guy comes in, they looked awful the first season there. And then he went to 9-8, and now they've been really good the last 2 years, even losing coordinators. This year, I thought they'd take a step back, but man, they're really good. And they even asked Dan Campbell about the tush push, and he said, you know what? I'm a purist. Leave it in the game. Because once you start changing one thing, then we have excuses to change other things. There's no point. So I really respect the way he goes about his business. But speaking of business, Eagles have to get down to it, all right? And the main thing I want to talk about is A.J. Brown for a minute here, because we've gone through the whole AJ convo. It's very tiresome. I don't feel like talking about it anymore, but it's really shadowed everything else this week. And my biggest worry in this game is that they're going to force feed the ball to AJ, and it's going to mess up the flow of the team, kind of like they did earlier in the year. Remember against Denver when they tried to pass, even though they had to get into the run game, and now the run game's been all up and down all season. But AJ does need the ball. Like, let's not forget that, right? How hard is it to get A.J. Brown the football? You got to hit him in this game. The Detroit Lions love to go with man coverage. And guess what? The Eagles have been very effective against it. Jalen Hurts against man coverage this year, 63.6% completion, 601 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception, third best rating in the NFL. A.J. Brown being targeted in man coverage. He's 14 of 22, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's been really good. So the Lions have a prolific defense, but the Eagles can exploit it. AJ has not been that good against zone. He's been good against man. But A.J. Brown has only 14 crossing routes this season, which is absolute malpractice. I say it every week. I scream at the TV. Send him over the middle. Little yards after catch. This guy can run with the ball. You're going to see it from the Lions. The Lions get very creative offensively. Like I said, I've been watching them a lot, whether it's amon-ra, putting them in the slot, letting them do a couple things after the catch. Jameson Williams can hit you with the deep ball. What about Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery? They have a really well-oiled machine, and it's because they let their weapons go out and do what they have to do. So it's just crazy that AJ has been so underutilized. You have to get him the ball, and we have to stop this drama from happening. Now, AJ Brown and Jeff Lurie apparently had a very good convo yesterday at practice in regards to AJ's role and his frustration. So hopefully that can fix some things. And then Jordan Mailata commented on it, which I thought was a little eye-opening. He says, whatever he says is on him. As a teammate, I can understand his frustrations. For me, I'm going to stay in my lane. As an offensive lineman, if we're not getting them the ball, how can I fix it? Go to KP and tell him, get the ball to AJ? That doesn't help anything. So me saying, I agree with AJ, go get him the ball, I'd be the 15th person telling him the same thing. So everybody's telling you, Patullo, get AJ the football. Get him the ball. And AJ went out and commented on his stream comments, and he says, I'm not going to apologize. I'm just frustrated. I want to be able to help the offense. Like I said, winning comes first, man. You have to prioritize winning. You shouldn't be holding yourself with this type of body language. The team is tied for the best record in the NFC. They're 7-2. But I also agree with you 100,000% that Patullo has to get you the ball. So they need to fix it. They need to fix it this week. If you got to give him the ball 10 times, okay. By the way, you have all these other weapons, right? Dallas Goedert, most touchdowns of his career. Devontae's having a career year. Got to get Saquon going. So as we look to this matchup, man, they're going to have to get on the same page. And like I said, you got to exploit the Lions, who use a lot of man coverage. Now, let's talk about this matchup for a little bit, okay? Here's where the Eagles really need to capitalize in this game. I think the biggest strength for the Eagles is that they are number one this year in red zone offense. Now, they also have been there the second fewest times, just ahead of the Titans, which means they don't push the ball downfield well, but when they do get there, they can convert. And then on the flip side, Eagles are fourth in red zone defense. So when you look at the Detroit Lions, I think they're 25th in the league in red zone defense. They haven't been good. 13th in points given up, 7th in yards given up. So they have a lot of good hard hitters up front, guys that can get to the quarterback, guys that can stuff the run. They only give up 4 yards a carry. It's all led by Aiden Hutchinson. That guy is an absolute monster. He's second in the NFL in terms of pressures. And they have other guys as well, Muhammad and Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. And everybody talked about, oh, the Lions aren't going to have pass rushers here. They just have a good system. It reminds me a lot of the way Vic Fangio can plug whatever pieces he wants into the equation, they're going to produce. But as we talked about with the injury report, Jalen Hurts is going to have to win this game with his arm at times. Because especially if Terrion Arnold, who has a concussion, doesn't play, and Kirby Joseph's out again, and who knows about Sam Laporte, I mean, that could affect them a lot. But defensively, if their secondary's banged up, you have no excuse but to go out there and feed AJ and Devontae, because these guys cannot be stopped. And I say it every single week. I don't have to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. We talk about all these matchups and these players. Part of it is just execution. Put your players in the best position to do so. So when I look at the Detroit Lions on the other side of the ball, they're going to come out and execute. They're second in the league in scoring, 31.4 points a game. In terms of yards, they're number 6. They have all these different weapons, man. You got to get pressure on Jared Goff. And one guy that has to do that is Jaelan Phillips. 27.5% pressure rate on third downs, highest among all edge rushers. He's been absolutely fantastic. Now, again, it was one game. He's going to be in the game plan this week. You know, everybody was shocked and surprised, but all these other breakouts that we talked about, right? Moro Ajomo and Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, even Jalen Carter, you have to get to Jared Goff. I'm interested to see how much they blitz Jared Goff, because he does get the ball out quick. But where the Lions really get you is you have to be able to tackle them in open space, because they're so creative, right? They'll send guys over the middle. You know, they'll do these pick routes. They'll do just a bunch of like crazy stuff pre-snap. Amon-Ra, St. Brown. They have an alternating running back system. One drive, it'll be Jahmyr Gibbs. The next, they're like, okay, you rest. David Montgomery's good enough to take us down the field. They have so many weapons. We'll see about Laporta. I do think that could be a big miss, because he's really, really good. And Vic's going to have to, you know, continue to find ways to throw off Jared Goff. Otherwise, if he gets in this rhythm, man, he could go for 4 or 5 touchdowns easy. Like I said, man, the pass rush has to be huge. Shout out Jaelan Phillips, who just continues to say all the right things. He says, you pray for times like this. Being able to play big games in big environments is a blessing, and says he is so excited to make his debut at the Link. If the Lions get out in front of you, especially with how we've seen the Eagles offense stall, right? Like they can't go down 14-0 right now, because then things could go sideways. You could get flustered. We haven't been able to see them trudge it down the field and, really get their hands dirty, get in the ground. I mean, if Saquon could go for 120, that would be huge. We just can't bank on it right now based on how the offensive line's playing and based on the plays that are being called. And last but not least, I mean, you have to take care of the football. That is always the Eagles' philosophy. The Lions like to play a little wild. They're going to go for it on a lot of 4th downs, and they're willing to be risky. But Jalen Hurts' philosophy has always been play a clean game, don't turn it over. Jalen Hurts has been sacked the 7th most times this year, 25 times. Jared Goff has been sacked 18. But Jalen doesn't really turn the ball over that much. Jared Goff can be turnover prone if you get to him. So that's how you have to cut some of these drives, man. There's going to have to be a couple big momentum changing plays. So last but not least, our final score prediction. This is a hard one. I'm going back and forth on it a lot. It all depends on whether the Eagles come out and play and call a solid game offensively. They have to be competent. And I really feel like the Eagles' biggest enemy in this game is themselves. But with that being said, this is a battle of the heavyweights. Not only can this help you in the standings, but with tiebreakers, beating Green Bay and the Lions back-to-back would be amazing. And I think this is just going to be one of those games where you really get amped up. And I think being at the Link on a Sunday night, the energy will be infectious. Dan Campbell already talked about that. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to win this game 28-24. Might be a little bit low on my end, but I think the Eagles go on a game-winning offensive drive and they get the ball to AJ and Devontae and they finally get things a bit corrected, because they're going to have to win this game. So those are my thoughts. Give me yours down below. Going to be one heck of a matchup. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I will catch you on the next one.